Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, your articles, research, all your notes, and we try to distill the essential nuggets of knowledge you need.
So you can get up to speed and quickly.
Exactly. And today we're on a pretty specific mission. We're diving into the debut short novel by the Chinese author Ye Wuhen.
And we're really trying to understand the core story, the characters, and maybe most importantly, the critical reception of the billionaire's pregnant ex-wife.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, because it's a title that, just on the surface, it seems built entirely on genre tropes.
Completely.
But our source material, which is this really detailed critical review, it suggests that the novel actually transcends that. It offers some significant emotional depth.
And that's what we want to know, right? How does it manage that? And why are readers responding so intensely to this piece of romantic drama?
Exactly.
And you mentioned the title. It's doing a massive amount of heavy lifting right out of the gate. The billionaire's pregnant ex-wife.
You know exactly what you're getting.
You know instantly what kind of high-stakes, probably messy relationship territory we're in. This isn't trying to be some sort of literary piece.
No, it's a narrative promise. It's designed to hook a very specific, very dedicated readership. It's a perfect example of genre signaling.
So that promise is for high-stakes drama. A tale of, love, pain.
And all those uncomfortable truths that come out when the past and present just collide, which in this case they do, violently.
So let's start with the central setup then, because this is where Ye Wuhen really kicks things off. We meet the protagonist, Elena Stone.
Right, and she gets the news that she's pregnant, which is already a huge life-altering event.
And
then, just as she's processing this, her estranged husband, the titular billionaire Julian Blackwood, he just re-enters her life.
Of course he does.
And the review calls this timing tumultuous, for very good reason. She's navigating this massive personal shift and is immediately confronted by this relationship debt she thought she was done with.
So the tension isn't just about the pregnancy.
Not at all. It's about all the unresolved history. The very first question the book asks the reader is really the anchor for the entire genre. Can love actually endure betrayal? Can it survive that kind of, historical heartache?
And that question gets even more complicated with another character, David.
Yes, David.
Yeah.
He's a key supporting character, and he isn't just window dressing. He's a crucial narrative device. He stands by Elena, and he represents this sort of safe, stable alternative.
I have to pause here. In so many of these stories, that safe harbor character, David here, can feel like just a plot placeholder.
Just a device.
Yeah, a device to make the heroine look good or to make the main hero jealous. What does the review say about his role here? Does it feel less manufactured?
That's a great question, and it's a crucial distinction. The review suggests David's presence really sharpens Elena's dilemma. It forces you, the reader, to genuinely consider moving on versus, the pull of all that passion and history with Julian.
Okay, so he's not just passively encouraging her.
No, his steadfastness makes the complexity of her relationship with Julian even more apparent. He highlights the real cost of all that emotional chaos, which makes Elena's choice, whatever it is, feel weighty. It feels earned.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to what the critics highlighted as the novel's main strength. Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources, they all point to the novel's, quote, powerful emotional depth.
And that depth is achieved by focusing almost entirely on the internal struggle. It's not about external plot shocks.
You mean like her wrestling with her own feelings?
Exactly. We see her pre-existing feelings for Julian, that original love colliding really brutally with her deep-seated fears from their past, and all of that is just amplified by the gravity of the pregnancy.
So it's that blend of longing and fear and this new maternal responsibility that creates all the tension.
Yes. The book elegantly delves into themes like regret, love, and the kind of courage you need to face your own contradictory emotions, especially when your choices impact more than just you.
And that all comes down to character development, which the review says is thoughtfully executed.
It is. Let's look at Elena Stone. She's not just a victim or a damsel in distress. She's portrayed as passionate and resilient, sure, but also deeply vulnerable.
Because of her history with Julian.
Right. Her pregnancy isn't the end of her story. It's the catalyst for this really intense journey of self-discovery.
And then there's the billionaire, Julian Blackwood. In this genre, that character is so often a convenient, emotionally stunted caricature.
He's just the source of conflict.
Yeah, without any real internal growth. Does Ye Wuhen fall into that trap?
Well, what's so fascinating here is that the author seems to subvert that exact trope. The review says Julian is fleshed out as a character deserving of empathy.
I mean, it's crucial, right? If he were just a villain, there'd be no reason for the reader to root for them to get back together.
None at all.
But I wonder, does that risk forcing a redemption arc? You know, when a writer just makes the wealthy, difficult hero sympathetic to justify a happy ending, even if his past behavior was, well, inexcusable?
That is a brilliant, critical question. And the review implies the author doesn't just grant him instant redemption. The complexity comes from understanding his deep flaws.
Like what? Failures in communication?
Perhaps. Or maybe his obsession with his work. It's presented as this historical relationship debt that he's now forced to confront because of Elena's situation. So it forces you to see the difference between a character who is just unlikable and one who is genuinely flawed but might be capable of change.
So his complexity forces you, the reader, to question your own loyalties. It's not just about who's right or wrong.
Exactly. It grounds this extravagant setup, the billionaire, the dramatic timing, in a very relatable emotional conflict.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it sounds like the novel uses that genre framework to ask a much deeper question.
It does. It asks, can you forgive someone when the love is still clearly there, but the trust has been fundamentally broken?
And that internal conflict is what hooks the audience.
Precisely.
Let's transition to the technical construction of the novel, the writing itself. The source praised Ye Wuhen's prose as being both evocative and approachable.
And that description is really key to its success. Evocative means the language is rich enough to paint these vivid emotional landscapes. You feel Elena's pain and her indecision.
But it's not so dense that it slows you down.
Right, and that's the approachable part. The reader can just immerse themselves without battling complex sentences. It's clarity in service of emotional intensity.
And the dialogue was also called out as being authentically grounded. What does that mean here?
I think it means it reflects both their internal struggles and their external conflicts at the same time. Authentic dialogue between people with a long history it's heavy with subtext.
What's not said.
What's not said is often more important than what is, and the review suggests Ye Wuhen captures that. You see the lingering anger, the familiarity, the unspoken love, even when they're arguing about practical things.
Okay, let's talk about pacing. For a short novel with such intense emotions, pacing is everything.
It's critical.
You don't want to get bogged down in introspection, but you need time to process everything. So is it a sprint or a thoughtful walk?
The review says it's expertly balanced. The author weaves moments where Elena is reflecting and questioning her past with, the quick progression of external events.
So it keeps you engaged with the plot, but gives you room to think.
Exactly.
And I really appreciate that the review highlighted that the suspense is built from the story's inherent emotions, not from over-the-top dramatics. It avoids that soap opera feel.
It does, and that speaks to the novel's focus on character-driven conflict. Instead of a surprise villain or some absurd twist, the tension comes from the agonizing risk Elena has to take if she chooses to forgive Julian.
Or the profound loss if she chooses David. The dilemma itself is the suspense.
Yes, and that elevates the material. It also touches on broader societal themes, which is the critique mentions. It uses this specific story to talk about universal pressures, things surrounding motherhood, relationships, the choices women face.
Which makes it more relatable, even if you've never met a billionaire.
It really enhances the depth.
Okay, so let's put this all together. If you're our listener trying to decide what to read next, who is this book for?
Well, this novel seems tailored for anyone who enjoys heartfelt romances, dramatic literature, and especially stories about second chances.
But a second chance that isn't just handed over, it's fought for.
Fiercely fought for and deeply analyzed. It's for readers who appreciate character-driven stories where you see real, believable, emotional growth.
So it's Elena's journey towards self-acceptance and hope that's really the core of it all. That's what invests the reader.
Exactly. And now, for the final verdict from our source review. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the judgment is that Ye Wuhen has delivered a really compelling tale that balances romance and thoughtful drama beautifully.
And the proof is in the numbers, right? What was the final rating?
The final rating given in the review was a stellar 4.5 out of 5 stars for its engaging storytelling, its well-developed characters, and its thought-provoking themes. It confirms this is way more than just a simple genre read. It encourages real reflection on the complexities in all relationships.
So what does this all mean? We have a debut short novel from Ye Wuhen that takes a popular trope, the billionaire XA, and infuses it with real emotional nuance.
Through the lens of Elena's self-discovery, Julian's surprisingly empathetic portrayal, and the stabilizing force of David.
It's a masterclass in finding character growth amid high drama.
And the novel asks if love can endure despite betrayal and heartache. That raises an important question for you, the reader, as you think about this story. How much of the burden of the past must be faced to truly earn a new beginning?
Is starting over even really possible, or are you just building on old, damaged foundations?
That's the question.
That is the core conflict. It sounds like if you're looking for that perfect, emotionally charged escape, a deep dive into love, regret, and personal courage, this is the one to pick up. Go grab a cozy blanket, your tea,
And settle in for what sounds like a compelling debut. Until next time.